Hi folks, I'm going to make these double pocket pot holders, so keep watching. So let's take a look at what we need to make this project. In the file you have cutouts for the hand pockets. You have 2 for the outside and 2 for the inside of the pockets so that they're double-sided. You have the front of the project. That is 8 by 24 or 23 and a half when you cut it with your maker. And you have the back of the body. So that's, I'm going to use the little polka dots on the back and these hash marks on the front. And I'm going to use the polka dots as the outside of my pocket with the tiny polka dots on the inside of my pockets. This is the white bias tape that we made earlier. That was fun to make. So we need that. Then we have the batting. So I put cuts in the file for the batting, but I don't like to put batting on my mats. I find it very messy, so I prefer to cut them by hand. And also I prefer to use pieces that are larger than my fabric, so that if we have any shifting or stretching, we don't end up with a crooked batting inside our project. So I prefer to use cuts that are larger. So I've cut this about 12, I believe 12 by 26. You don't have to cut it that large, but I did. Get that out of the way. So about 12 by 26. So I have that extra space. And you're going to use 2 pieces for the body so that you have some good insulation against the heat if you do use it. Once I've quilted this in place, then I will just trim with scissors, trim around the edge to get a nice fit. We'll put that aside. And I've cut 2 pieces for the pockets. The pockets are on the outside. They're away from the tray or pot that you're lifting. They're on the outside. So I'm only using 1 piece of batting on the pockets. So let's go ahead and put this aside. We're going to start by working on the body of our project. So we'll put that outside, the back aside for a moment. Okay, I don't like to use spray basting. I don't know if it's dangerous or not to use when you're putting this, reaching into an oven with it. So I prefer not to use that. I'm just going to grab a pin and I'm going to put it here in the batting only, not in the fabric, in the batting. I want that to be a marker so that I can line up the other side. There we go. We'll put that one here. I'm just putting it on through the batting. And there. So then I can flip it over and I can see where my fabric is on the other side. So I can line this up. Put it right along the edge of those pins. So I know I've got it centered properly on the other side, or with the other side. That looks good. I'm going to turn it over carefully so I don't move anything, and I'll take my pins back out. You don't have to do it this way, but I found it the easiest way to line everything up. Oh, there was one more thing that you absolutely need when you're making this, and I forgot to mention it. You need candy. You have to have a bowl of candy or it doesn't work out right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is draw some lines. You can quilt this any way that you want to, but I'm just going to draw straight lines on it for quilting. I know that I'm working with 8 inches wide, so I'm going to look for the 4-inch mark. Whoops. Find the center. I should turn this around. Find the center. There's my 4-inch mark. I'll get it lined up nice and straight. That looks good. And I'm just going to take my heat erase pen. These are from Dritz. I'll use my heat erase pen just to give myself a mark for where I'll be sewing. And this will disappear when I press it. I hope that will show this color. Need to get a little darker down here so I can see it. That looks good. Okay, and from there we're going to do 1.5 inches on each side of that mark. It's not that easy to see. I should have used a different color. There we go. 1.5 inches on that side. An 1.5 inches on this one. Just line it up. Oops. There we go. And 1.5 inches here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So where's my center mark? Oops, it's a little hard to see. I really should have used a different color. There we go. And 1.5 inches away from that one. That looks about right. Okay, so I have my guidelines drawn. So I'm going to put my, I don't know if you can see them. My guidelines are drawn on here. So I'm going to be doing just straight stitching. I'm going to use my walking foot on my machine. And before I do that, I'm just going to put a few pins in it to make sure nothing shifts while I'm moving it or sewing it. That should be fine. You don't need too many pins. It's not a big project. And I mean, if you feel fine using spray basting on something that's going to go in the oven or reach into the oven, you're not baking it, but something that you're going to use to reach into the oven or pick up hot pods, I guess you could use spray basting, but I'm not keen on the idea. So I'll just put a few pins in it. Okay, so I'm going to put my walking foot on my machine. I'm going to sew this straight line quilting, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to prepare the pockets, the hand pockets. See you in a minute. And I'm back. So I've got the quilting done for the main body. You can see better on the back side because of the white thread on this side is not showing that much, but you can see that I've just done straight lines, and then I pressed, and all the ink that I put on it has disappeared. That's perfect. I should have mentioned, if you don't have a walking foot, it's fine. You can still make this project. You just want to support your fabric as you're going through your sewing. Don't pull on it too much, and don't just let it go because you might cause some puckers. So just support your fabric, keep it nice and smooth if you're using a regular foot while you're quilting, and it should still turn out perfectly fine. I'm just going to trim this up now that it's done. We'll get that straight. And I'll just use my rotary cutter. There we go. And these strips, I want to keep them. Oh, look. And these strips, I want to keep them because they're perfect if ever you're making a strap for a bag and you want a little bit of binding in the batting in them. Instead of cutting up one of your large pieces, you can just use that. Let's turn this. Oh, I'm going to cut the end off. Turn this around. Straighten it up. There we go. And I'll keep this piece also. I like to make bags, and it's fun to have a little batting to put in the handles to keep them nice and soft and comfortable for being on your shoulder or crossbody. So we'll do that. And I'm just going to take the corners off with my scissors. Let's take a look at this. That looks good. See the extra little batting right here? That's no big deal. It's going to be under the binding or bias tape. So that's nothing to worry about. I'll just cut this off so I have my rounded corners. See how it was centered really nice before I started sewing, and it did shift. You can see how one corner shifted more than the other. See that? So let's trim from this side. There we go. Okay. Trim this one. That's good. Good. Okay, so that's all ready. This is where our pockets will go on, so we're just going to set that aside and we'll start to work on our pocket. So you're going to do two. So you want to put the inside of your pocket face down, good side down. We're going to put our batting in between, and I think I'll flip it over, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the long piece, just mark it with some pins so that I line it up on the other side. So see, I can see my pins, so I know where I need to place this. Make sure we line it up nice. That looks about right. And I'm just going to put a couple of pins in it. That'll keep it in place. And I'll take these out. Okay, so that will be my top and my inside of my pocket. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So always for the pocket, you want your fabric to be good side up. On this one, I put my fabric down first, so it was good side down with the batting on top. But I want to put my marker pins in, so good side up on my batting. Go. Okay, turn it over and I can line up the other side. Okay, and that should be good. I'll put a couple of quilting pins in it, or basting pins they're called. Good. Okay, take out my straight pins. And we're good. So these are my 2 hand pockets for the ends of the pot holder. So what I'm going to do now is just do a 1/4 inch seam all the way around all sides, all the way around. You want to join the inside and outside together this way, and we'll be putting bias tape along it to hide all the raw seams. So I'm going to do those, get both of these ready, we'll come back and trim it, and we'll start to assemble. And I've got my pockets prepared, inside and outside. I've done my stitching all around the sides, and now we're going to trim off the excess. We don't need that there. You can even make your seam allowance a little smaller, although it will be covered by the binding, or bias tape I should call it. I always say binding because I'm used to quilting. I guess that's okay. There we go. Throw that away. I'll cut that with my rotary blade. I just like to do the round parts with scissors, or roundish. The curve I prefer to do with scissors. We're just about finish this because we don't actually sew this onto the body of the pot holder. We attach it at the same time that we attach the batting. So we're getting there. I'll just cut this straight with my rotary blade. That's garbage. Oops, I didn't get the corner. And garbage. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is put binding along these straight edges. So this is really quite simple to do. Don't worry about the ends because you're going to be trimming them off and they're going to be covered by the rest of the binding. Right. I want to have the slightly shorter side on the top, the longer side behind. So I'm just going to fold this over, make it a little longer. We can trim it off. I'll just put some clips in it to hold it in place. I think this is going to be cute. Okay, I'll just cut that off and we'll trim this up after it's sewn on. And we'll do the same on this one. We're going to put this right into the fold. So that our original sewing is covered. That looks good. Okay, so I'm going to go to my machine and I'm going to sew right along this, both of these, right along it, so that it sews through to the other side at the same time. And I'll be back to show you how we're going to attach this to the pockets to the body. And the pockets are ready. I hope that you can see the sewing on this. In this light, it's a little difficult. There you go. You can see that, and I've sewn on the slightly shorter side, so the sewing is perfectly lined up on the back. I love my bias tape maker, it's amazing. Okay, I've sewn right off so that my machine wouldn't knot on the back of this. So I'm just going to trim off these extra pieces. We don't need those. And these raw edges are going to be hidden in the binding on the complete pot holder. So I'm going to trim that off. There we go. So I believe I'm going to use this as the back. Do I want that? Polka dots on the front. Decisions. Do I want it all polka dot? Or do I want the hash marks with the polka dots? I think I want it like this. So when you're making it, you can use 4 fabrics, 3 fabrics, bright colors, earth tones, whatever it is that you like to work with. So we're just going to line this up, get it kind of straight. Along the edge. If you feel you need to trim anything, do that now before you put your binding on. Okay, my binding. I'm just going to go to my pressing station because I unplugged my mini, and I'm just going to fold over this raw edge about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. I'm just going to fold it over and press it back, folded like this. I want a finished edge on this piece, so I'm just going to press that. Okay, that's pressed. This is good. Make sure they're straight. We don't want crooked pockets. That looks pretty good. Do I like this side? I think so. It's cute. Okay, so now I have a finished edge on my binding. I'm just going to put it on here. Make sure I'm putting this shorter side to the front. But I'm not going to start sewing right at this edge. I'm going to start sewing maybe around this pocket, because I go all the way around to the other side. I want to be able to tuck my end underneath so you don't see any raw edges. So I want to be able to tuck that underneath. So I'm going to keep this part open for now. And we'll just start fitting our binding or our bias tape all the way around. That feels about right. Did I move the pocket? Work my way around the corner. Takes a little bit of work to get it all even. Okay, so I'm going to continue all the way around like this. I'm going to be sewing my binding on all the way around. When I come to this end, I'm going to tuck it under this finished edge, about 1 inch under. So, and then continue sewing so that it's right up to my starting point. No back stitching. I'm going to continue past my starting point about 4 or 5 stitches just to make sure that it's secure. And I'll be back to show you the finished product. And we're done. I think it's pretty cute, except for my binding skills on curves are terrible. If I was making another one for a gift, I would make square corners because I can miter those and they turn out super nice. But just pretend you don't see my boo-boos. I think this is pretty terrific and makes a gorgeous little gift. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you decide to make some of these double pocket pot holders, so cute with the polka dots on the inside. If you decide to make some, please post pictures so I can see how they turn out. I'm sure you're going to be better at the round binding than I am. Please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you for watching.